Right, here we go. Let's start this one then, shall we? So I don't know if anyone can hear me. Let me know if you can. I'm not entirely sure if this thing is working properly, but I assume that it is, and I'm sure you'll let me know if it's not. So, Bitcoin is playing out. We're looking at Matic here, clearly. Bitcoin is playing out. It's starting to play out the way that we have expected it to play out. So this little dip here isn't really too much of a dip, to be honest with you, from top to bottom. We are looking at only a 3 3/3 area of a pullback so far. So to be honest with you, we're at the bottom of the Bollinger Band on the daily chart. This looks to me like it wants to come all the way back down here to stretch this Bollinger Band out. If we can have a look at a little bit closer at some of these moving averages, what we're really looking at now is below all moving averages. Let's get rid of this little thing. I had this in there yesterday, to be honest. It's just trading a bit of the 5-minute chart. So we are being rejected from, I think that's the 7-day and the, I can't remember which one that purple one was. Is that the that's the 8-day, so the 7 and the 8-day moving average. That's where we were rejected from today. Didn't even get to the top of this area here, which was the descending trend resistance line. To be honest with you, what this looks like to me is our first test of the temporary sort of midway area before we break down to the 6,600, where we're likely to find our first bounce, and a significant bounce at that. But what I would say is, if we don't make that move tonight, what we could be looking at is a gradual move down into these areas, and if we move gradually down into the areas, then I would probably say that this area will break and we will be down into this area. It depends on how aggressive and volatile it is to how significant the buybacks will be. Every opportunity to make a bottom is an opportunity to buy back and go long. But what I have to say, and what I'll always be saying, is that this descending trend is the governing trend that is the be all and end all. And if we can't break out of there, this is, if you do TA yourself, or if you're unsure of what to do, I would urge you to put this descending trend line in on this daily chart. This will give you a little bit of understanding of where to go long and where to close your longs, or where to go short if you really want to actually do a short on this. Because what's happening now is, we'll just zoom in a little further, we're testing this area quite a few times just this week, which shows me that there is quite a lot of people going long on this, and there is an opportunity for us to break out of this. So if you're unsure about how to do this, you just get one simple line, put it to the top of this wick here, layer it all the way down until it hits this wick, and then the top of this candle body, and then you'll see that all these start to measure up. It doesn't need to be perfect. It's just a rough line, but you'll see when it starts to match up, and this will give you that little bit of I guess just a bit of an understanding of what it is we're looking to achieve, whether we can break out of this. If we do break out of this, we're basically going up. If we're rejected from it, we'll just stay underneath it until we try to break above it again and again and again. But you can see how we basically get rejected from it every single time. It's as far as lines are concerned, it's one of the most important lines I've probably ever drawn in anything. It's the simplest thing anyone's ever done, but it's one of the most important things that you can do for Bitcoin right now. More important than all these fancy little drawings that people like to do on charts. It's nice and simple and very effective. You can clearly see how it works. We get rejected, technically we're rejected, closed beneath it perfectly, supported on it on the way down, you can see just how perfect it pretty much is. Perfect every single time. Supported all the way down, broke beneath it, rejected, 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 rejected. So make sure that you draw that little line in for yourself, because this will tell you when it's going to go bullish, and that's what we're looking to achieve with Bitcoin. You could buy anywhere beneath here if you wanted to. I'm not going to say it's a bad thing to do for the long haul of Bitcoin. All of these prices are still good for the long haul, but as we get lower and lower and lower, by buying it at these levels here, if you were to buy it down at these levels now, we're looking to basically double your earnings. Really, we're at 7,000 now, or just below. If we came down to this level here, you've basically earned yourself another over a third of a Bitcoin just from waiting. Now it might not ever do that, it might not ever come down that far, but it could do. Oh, Stephen Griffith, a £5 super chat. Why, thank you very much, much appreciated, very, very much appreciated that. I only started getting super chats the last live stream I did, right? And these are obviously from the OGs on my Telegram group, which I really appreciate that. So I know I kind of know you guys personally, not that we've ever met, but you know, because we've been on the Telegram for so long, chatting away, we do feel like we know each other. But what I didn't realise is that when you do a super chat, YouTube take about 35% of that, which I was a little bit surprised at. So as much as I do love a super chat, and I really do, it's probably more cost effective than just to flick me a bit of Bitcoin. You know, I've got some addresses at the bottom. I don't want anyone to just throw me money for no reason. I do this just out of you know, it's like a hobby really, you know, all this Bitcoin business. But yeah, I mean, super chats are great, but I couldn't believe it when I found that out. I got that it was, in fact, I think it looks, to me it looks like after tax and all these other things that the super chat has to go through, I ended up getting only just over half of the super chat money. The rest of it had been sent to the tax man and the VAT man and maybe the national insurance man and the YouTube man. So yeah, sorry about that. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, let's get back onto this. So yeah, like I say, I'm not a genius by doing this, but I would urge any of you to put this line in, because it clearly has an enormous amount of relevance to it, and it will tell us when we've gone bullish. So if you want to buy anywhere, feel free to do that. But if you want to go long on Bitcoin, which is what I'm sure a lot of people want to do, including myself, will only go long when we break out of this area. You can take risks of going long at these support levels like 6,006 or 6,005. That's a relatively decent area to attempt to go long on there. And again, I'm not a financial advisor, so it's not financial advice, but you can try that. But if you want to, I say, do something that's more likely, you can just wait this whole situation out until we break above this descending trend line, and that would, to me, suggest that we're going to go bullish. These areas here didn't count. This was a giant wick, a giant FOMO wick, and it was no surprise that we closed beneath it, beneath the descending trend. All these candles that you see above here, and again, they were supported on this descending trend. So even the descending trend turned into a support, even though it was really steep downwards facing support. It showed that it did mean something on those occasions, but this was just people wanting it to go back up. But clearly, by closing beneath it was no accident at all. Very telling as to what was going to happen. So this was just people having their money taken away from them. Anyway, we've got the death cross here, and the death cross is still playing out. That death cross took place with the price action, and like I say, this wick is quite big, really. But you could be generous and say that the death cross took place at this level here, 7,650, or you could be tight and say that it took place at this level here, where pretty much where our price action is hanging around at now. Death cross means generally that we will go down further from that value. So to me, it still sounds very reasonable that we will come down further than this. And even further than this level here, the 6,005 or the 6,006 area. It sounds quite reasonable to me that we will do that, and by doing that, it will end up in this box, which is still a big box. Let's measure this move out from top to bottom. This box has an area of around 25%, so that's a huge area with enormous moves that could be made in there. Oh wow, number one super chat. Number one super chat per viewer to watch this live stream. Thank you very much, Chris. And Chris is still my number one sponsor for this. He's that's definitely, what would that be? My fourth super chat from Chris. Cheers for that, geezer. Really appreciate it. And again, one of the OGs of the Telegram channel. If you want to join the Telegram channel, feel free to do so. There are links somewhere on my YouTube, but if you go to my Twitter page, you'll recognise, if you just put CryptoClick into Twitter, you'll find me. It's got the same little symbol, the most basic logo you've ever seen. You'll find it's a pinned tweet on my Twitter page, so you can join the chat there. I've not got that many people; it's just over 50. Kind of is growing, but I think when it gets close to about 150, I might actually start to take that down, because I don't know as I can cope too much with all that. I don't know if I've ever mentioned it, but I'm actually dyslexic, so chatting on things like Telegram to lots and lots of people will become a bit of a struggle for me, to be honest with you. Anyway, less about that and more about these coins. So let's have a little peep then, shall we, at our favourite coin of the channel, which is Matic, which unfortunately is not a favourite at the moment. My expectation of this, when this pulls back, if Bitcoin was to pull back into the 6,600 area, is that we might, and this is only going by this level here, this little wick that we had here. This was the day, and this was the moment that Bitcoin pulled back to 6,600, or the last time it did it. Now, it's nothing is certain, and absolutely nothing is certain with Matic right now, other than we've got more than a bit of a downwards trend. So having that downwards trend is going to be emphasized by Bitcoin's downwards trend. So for me to say we could buy at this level here, it's quite unlikely that we will bounce from there. What I would suggest is we're more than likely going to come down to this level here, where this wick came down to, before we have a bounce. So if we reach 6,600, we could be looking at a Matic coin of 1.12 cent, and we might find a bounce from there. If we fail to find a bounce from there, we're going to go down to these levels here, where we found support at the exact 1 cent level. I'm pretty sure that if we got down to that level, there'll be a lot of buying up, because there's a lot of people who still love Matic, including myself. However, I won't be buying there, and I'm sure I'll miss out on a decent bounce, but I'm not going to risk it. Really don't want to risk that, because in a market that looks bearish, let's measure this one out from where we are right now. The price action as of now, down to the 1 cent level, is actually that's not too bad. Actually, it's 23.8 cents. So maybe we could bottom out there, because, like I say, if Bitcoin, and I know it's a bigger move, but from this level was 25%, so we're not too far from that. Okay, so 28.3% versus 23.8%. There is a chance actually that could be an okay opportunity to buy at. The one thing I would be wary of, however, is that Matic would definitely have a death cross incoming at that point, or at some point soon, and that could drive it down further, unless of course the bounce is so significant that it raises up above this 200 exponential moving average, which is at currently is around about 1.67 cent. It is going down, but it could reach that level. So that was what I would say for Matic at the moment. First opportunity to buy back for a bounce would be this level, but I think that'll break. That's 1.22 cent. Second opportunity would be this level here, 1.12 cent, but almost certainly a 1 cent exact level. Or if you want to front run that ever so slightly, just to make sure that you get in, we could call it 1.010 or 20, just to front run that, because it might not actually reach that level. But again, it's a very dangerous coin to trade. You might get a decent bounce, but I wouldn't really want to fancy holding it for too long. I'm not a financial advisor, by the way, so it's not financial advice, and I unfortunately will not be doing that with you guys. It's too much of a risk. Look at these moving averages, all basically kamikazing into the floor, so it doesn't look like it wants to do anything at all. Right, so let's have a look at some of these chats then, shall we? Let's have a look if there's anything specific that you want me to look at. Oh yeah, so for the super chat you sent me there, Chris, so we got BNB under 10. Possibly, yeah. And I liked BNB, but I liked it because at the beginning of the year it was around about $5, and it's completely rocketed, right? And it looked like it was going to be one of the best coins you could find, but its chart has fallen to pieces at the moment, and it's making pretty significant lows every time we take an incremental step down. So even buying it at 10 cent, I still think the best coin out there of all the coins that you could buy with your tether, which is what I'm looking to do, all the coins that you're looking to buy with your tether would be basically in the top 5 of the coin market cap. So we're talking about Bitcoin, Ethereum, even XRP. I don't know what the others are, but it'll be the large cap coins that are going to see the best and more significant bounces. You can trade some really low cap coins if you want, and probably do 3 or 4 times more, but the gamble is it's definitely a gamble. The IEO coins aren't necessarily going to bounce when Bitcoin bottoms out, because the interest will be on Bitcoin and the top cap coins. People are going to want to buy those because it's those guys which will have officially bottomed out. Those other coins might not have officially bottomed out, so you've got to bear all that in mind, and I certainly am bearing that in mind. I don't want to take any risks. I'd rather go for something a bit more tangible, which would be Bitcoin or Ethereum, and I know even XRP. XRP's been a terrible coin this year. It's been really bad, in fact, if not one of the worst underperformers, and I think we're at new lows almost right now for the year, so very bad. So all my tether is pretty much going to go into Bitcoin when I believe we've bottomed out, because it's Bitcoin, in my view, it's Bitcoin which is still going to make the biggest gains and also has the highest liquidity. So all my money will go into Bitcoin, and I will leverage trade quite significant margins. Maybe I'm considering between 5 and 10x, somewhere around those levels, for XRP and Ethereum and Bitcoin as well. Anyway, let's have a little look at some of these other requests then, so just bear with me. BAT. Okay, let's have a look at BAT then, shall we? We'll get rid of this Matic business for now. So I've not looked at BAT in probably forever. I didn't realise it was available for margin trading either. It's not done it any favours though, from what I can see, because I do look at the prices of these things. Okay, so looking at it here on the daily chart, we are beneath all moving averages, significant rejection from this level, no way near forming a golden cross. In fact, very bearish setup with all of these moving averages, almost the complete reverse of what you would expect from something to be bullish. Let's have a quick look on the weekly chart for something. Right, one of the things I like to use is the itchy cloud, and this chart isn't old enough for me to actually do that. Oh dear, let me go back from there. Sorry about this, guys. I go back to the daily. It's not a very reliable chart because it's not very old here. There isn't really a great deal for me to say about it, and looking at it on the daily is pretty poor. We'll go to a 4-hourly chart, see what that says. It's still very bearish. When we're talking about making lows on this one, we're definitely, if Bitcoin goes down to its 6,006 or lower, we might not go down and revisit these lows, to be honest with you. But there's nothing beneath us specifically at this level, moving average wise, to say that we are going to be held up by anything. It looks like a continuous move all the way down. Let's have a look. So the level we're at now is, we found rejection at the level that we are at now, plus relatively good support this last few days, this last week or so, perhaps, these last few days. So what I would also say is the level they're at now, if this breaks down, we might come down by another 5 or so percent. Let's have a look at this area here. That looks relatively strong. So these are our levels for BAT that I would say we're looking to bounce around in if we were to come down to 6,600 with Bitcoin. So we'll just measure this move out here. That's a 10%. And let me just measure this out from where we are. Well, that's not going to be 10%. That's going to be about 4 or 5. Yeah, 5.5. So yeah, but, I mean, BAT's going to get hurt. And from when you look at all the other coins and how they've reacted today. So for instance, we've got Bitcoin down about 3% at the moment, but you've got Ethereum down over 7%. And Ethereum is one of those, it's one of the better altcoins out there, and that's come down significantly. So it's very vulnerable to Bitcoin and its pullbacks. BAT is down 6%, so it's also quite vulnerable too. So I think it's realistic to assume that if Bitcoin comes down to 6,600, we will come down to this area of around about 15.5 cent area. But there's a chance that Bitcoin will just bounce straight away like it did last time. And if it does do that, then that area will be hit or close to it, but we'll end up being, we'll reverse quite quick. With the rest of the market, we'll all reverse quite quickly. Right, let's have a look at some of these other coins that you're asking me to have a look at then. So if they're not on the Binance, I won't be able to look at them, and they're probably not really worth looking at either, to be honest with you. Binance has got the largest amount of volume, really, and that's all I'm going to be looking at here. XTZ, let's have a look at that for Jacko Schwab. Right, let's have a look at that then, shall we? XTZ. I'm only going to be looking at these on Tether, by the way. I don't really see a point. There's not really much of a point for me to... Oh dear, wow, this is pretty good. There's not really much of a point of me looking at Bitcoin Satoshi pairings, because Bitcoin's coming down so significantly. It's not going to be a reliable source for me to say where supports and resistances are. Not as much as Tether would be. So this chart's looking pretty good. It's a very immature chart though, so I'm going to bring it down to a different time frame. Right, so very bullish on the 4-hourly. This is really bullish actually. I don't know how much longer it's got to go though. How far do we move up? Ooh, that's a lot. That's a lot. This is a difficult one for me to work out. I mean, it's clearly bullish, but we're now entering a bearish market. We're hovering over this level here, this Ichimoku cloud, and if we start to touch these levels within the cloud, we might start to come back down within them. And if we break down beneath it, we'll probably dump, to be honest. So if it's something that you've got your money involved in, I'd be very careful and keep some tight stop losses on this one. But it is definitely still bullish. There's nothing to tell me that it's tired. Only the expectation that the market's going to drop out, and because of that, I would be a little bit wary, because the market has dropped out. Let me just check something else. So we've got a cross of the conversion line underneath the baseline on the Ichimoku cloud, which would say actually that, and this is only a 4-hour chart, and Ichi clouds, I prefer to use those on dailies. But this is an indicator all the same, and so what this would suggest is this is where we had the cross here, and when we get a cross like this, it means that it would tell us that there's going to be a continuation of that current direction, which is down. So I'm not convinced that this will be making any higher highs at this point now. I think the highs are already in, and we're going to have a period of consolidation and perhaps maybe a dump if we break down beneath these levels here. So if we break down beneath, we'll call it, because the Ichi cloud moves up every time, highest level to break down from before a dump in the next few days would be $1.61. If we start to break down beneath there, it might get a little bit scary. If we have this Bitcoin dump now to 6,600, we could really collapse in on ourselves at $1.53. Let's have a quick look at something at XTZ. So actually, it's actually come back. It's come down quite well. It's only down as a result of this Bitcoin dump on the day, as we speak right now, 3.5%. So it's done okay in comparison to other coins. So it's still showing relative strength. But like I say, I'd be cautious now. I think maybe the tops are in on this one. And and again, I'm not a financial advisor, so this isn't financial advice, but because we've got that Ichi cloud cross and it is only on a 4-hourly and the market looks bearish, I think the top is in for the moment, and we're going to have a period of consolidation and likely a dump if we break down beneath these levels. So that's what I'd say on that one. Let's have a look at some of these other messages here. Sorry, because there's been quite a few come up here, and again, like I say, I am dyslexic, so I find some of this is quite hard to follow sometimes. Let's have a peep. So we'll go back to Bitcoin definitely. So don't worry about that, Chris. We'll definitely go back to Bitcoin. But you're one of my Telegram OGs, so you know where I stand with Bitcoin. I'm expecting it to break down beneath 6,800 to 6,600 basically before a bounce. And if that fails to bounce, or if the bounce isn't significant like it was last time, we might be looking to break down beneath that level. But for the moment, I still think this is just one little baby step on the way down to that 6,006 or 6,005. Right, let's have a look then. So I'll tell you what, there's a few people looking for Chainlink, so we'll have a look at Chainlink. Chainlink fell out of the sky last time I looked at this, and wasn't looking great. I think we're looking just off the top of my head. Oh, right, okay. So we're actually on the daily. We're actually on the 200 exponential moving average. So this could be quite dangerous if we come down any further than this. So basically, on a daily, or on any stock or anything really, if the 200 exponential moving average is always going to be a significant support or a resistance if we're beneath it. So you can see how we've touched this a few times already, and it looks to me like we've been supported from it quite well. We have an incoming upwards facing 242, which is more relevant for something like Bitcoin, less so for Chainlink. But what I'm going to say is, if we break down beneath the level that this is, and it's leveling out at the moment, so actually if we have a candle body close on a daily chart beneath, we'll call it $1.96. If we have a candle body close beneath that level, and we probably would be looking at that if Bitcoin breaks down to another 3%, then I think it will get quite bearish for Chainlink, and we'll find our way down to we had a good little area around here before. Yeah, here it was around here. So $1.72 area. So I remember this before, because this is where we had, and again, this is one of those things that I like to follow. The Ichimoku Cloud cross took place here. Where was it? Here. And I remember making a video at the time saying that happened, and we're looking for a continuation, and we got that. Actually, we got a decent continuation. Now what happened here I cannot explain. I don't know if there's something that I didn't know about, some bad news or something happened, but this was a terrible move, and it's actually not very good to see, because what we also have as a result of that is an Ichi Cloud cross, a bearish one, which means a continuation of that downwards trend. So I think that this is actually going to break down, to be honest with you, at least to this level of around $1.73, but could even come down a bit further to $1.53. That's how I see Chainlink anyway. Let's have a look at some more then. So what else do you guys want me to have a look at? I can see some people asking for XRP. Now, don't shoot me, people, because I do own XRP. I've been buying it up at these very low levels, and I do intend to go long on these low levels when Bitcoin sort of pulls its finger out. So where are we now? We're actually very low. We're looking to make perhaps maybe a new low for the year. I think we're definitely going to achieve that new low for the year. So, and MACD's about to make a fresh cross, so that doesn't look good either. So what I did make a video, this is going back a while now, when we made our first dip to the 20-cent area, and I did say, because again we've got the cross that took place here, we had that cross, which is a bearish cross, saying that there's going to be a continuation of that direction, and I said that we're going to be looking at 20 cent to perhaps as low as 16 cent. It was my estimation that we were going to get. Now when I said that, people obviously started to criticize me, and quite rightly, because the move went up the other way. Now what this move I feel like was on the back of was the Swell conference that was coming up. There was a little bit of FOMO, a little bit of expectation about that, and also it had made a brand new low at this point, and people like myself had got quite excited and picked some up, because it's a very low price for XRP, because there's still a good chance that XRP will recover to its full potential. So buying down here would be, just as a hodl coin, would be a great investment if you believe that. And I kind of do expect that we'll see a $3 XRP, in about 2 years from now. So that's an okay price to be buying it at. But anyway, I was getting criticised because the direction was moving up, but now we've come back down again. So I still think that there is a chance that we'll be going into the teens and staying in the teens for a little while, which is why I'm actually getting quite excited, because I don't think we'll stay down there in the low teens. I think we'll bounce around 16 cent or so. There's a good chance that we'll get to that level, and we probably won't stay at that level for very long, but we'll end up having to break through all these moving averages again, which basically things like 20 cent will become a resistance for XRP, because they've been a relatively strong support. So if we go into the teens, that's something that we'll have to bear in mind, something we'll have to be prepared to wait out, basically. But like I say, buying a hodl coin down there is what I'd expect to see decent bounces. And like I say, yeah, it's a decent coin. Buying it at that level, at that price, is pretty good. I'm just gonna have a quick sip of tea. Just bear with me a minute. But again, there's nothing about this chart that's bullish. It's all very, very bearish. MACD is bearish. Moving averages are bearish. The price in itself is making new lows, so it's bearish. Underneath the cloud, which is bearish. Itchy cloud cross, bearish. The only thing, and this is the same with Bitcoin, which is why I'm thinking certain things are going to be bottoming out soon, is when you do look at the MACD, we've actually made, as it stands at the moment, we'll have to see where we go when this next big drop takes place. As it stands at the moment, we've got a higher high with the MACD. That's all I've got to say about it. That's why I'm kind of expecting the next areas of Bitcoin to be a bottom, because if we look at Bitcoin, we have the same as well, and this would suggest to me that even though we've made new lows on the price action, the MACD is telling us that there could be an opportunity for a reversal, but that's all speculation at the moment. It's not necessarily going to happen. So it looks like Bitcoin wants to pull itself back down, going a bit south for the moment. So let's have a look at some of these other coins then for you. Anything else you want me to look at, guys? Anything specific? More than happy to look. Because the things we've been looking at are pretty much the obvious ones. I'll tell you what, while you have a little think about that, I'm just going to, for personal gain, have a look at Ethereum. My expectation is that Ethereum is going to be touching around $120 when this is all over. So it's got a fair bit further to fall. Around this level here is where I'm going to be picking it up. But again, when you look at all these charts, they all kind of look the same. And I don't mean the patterns or the candlesticks. I'm talking the moving averages on the dailies, and it's because of the moving averages that I'm still bearish. I trade mainly by using a very simple strategy, which is moving averages, very basic analysis on a MACD, some trend line work, and the Ichimoku cloud, and it's that is all I would generally use to make a trade. And my trades are planned in advance, so the way that I trade is basically ahead of schedule. I see certain things that are going to happen. There's no specific time zone. I don't really say this is going to happen today, tomorrow, the next 5 minutes or whatever, but they do give me a general direction that's going to be hit. So I would use low leverage most of the time because of that, because the price will fluctuate, but my general direction is usually met because I use only long-term trend analysis. So there's a battle going on at the moment between the bulls and the bears. Let's have a look then for you guys. I'll have a little look at Litecoin. Now, I've not looked at this since the halving event, which the only thing that got halved was its price, to be honest with you. Again, exactly the same setup as Ethereum and XRP. They look identical, and this looks pretty much identical to Ethereum, but when it comes to moving averages, it's pretty much identical, and it's this that's going to tell me that they're all going to be bottoming out at the same time. This had a itchy cloud cross at this level here, so we had our continuation, and these are daily candles. I don't know where this will bottom out, to be honest with you. This could end up being really bad and have a full retracement down to around about 32, or I don't think we'll see these levels. I think we'll bounce before there, but it could quite easily have another $5 or $10 to go before this one's bottomed out, which is, it's kind of interesting, because when we look at this, this is what Bitcoin looked like. It moved with Bitcoin, it amplified Bitcoin in many ways, it front-run Bitcoin. So Litecoin was the leader of this entire parabolic move. It made significant gains, bigger gains than Bitcoin, but now it's completely retracing, and a lot of this was FOMO'd in because of the halving event. Look at it all the way back down here, 20 cent. Let's measure this one from bottom to top. That's unbelievable. 550% basically, absolutely unbelievable. And now we are looking at a full retrace. Now, if this fully retraces, our death cross did take place over here, so that's quite a long way off. Our death cross took place with all the rest of the altcoins. We've had a 53, almost 54% retrace from that death cross. Actually, I'm doing that wrong. Sorry, I don't know why I did that. Why did I do that? That was terrible. So the price action was here, so we'll say that it happened there. 45, almost 46% retrace from the price action of the death cross. That should have played out by now, but the market is coming down, and it's going to pull it down more. So we could end up back down at the 32 cent dollar area, and there's no reason why we're going to have a move like this, because again, this was driven with the market, but it was amplified by the fact that we had the halving event, and this top here, this little tippy top right up here, that was the halving event. And then as soon as that played out, and it was a real just completely underwhelming moment in crypto history, we just basically collapsed. A lot of people were thinking, and I made a video on it myself, because historically the last halving event made the price go up, I think it went up 2 or maybe even 400% after the halving event. But actually what's happened this time is I believe we've actually come down by that value. How much have we come down by now? 73% from that bottom to top. That in itself should be bottoming out at this point now. If we come down to 80% retrace, I think that would be it for Litecoin, which would be around about the $30 area. So yeah, I wouldn't touch this one either. I think this one is got a lot further to go. And what I would say is I probably wouldn't want to buy it either, because it's not likely that we're going to be seeing big moves like we did at the beginning of the year, because this was driven and peaked at the halving event, and then we collapsed completely down on ourselves, making this molehill type mountain shape, and we're probably not going to be seeing moves like this again. The next significant halving event is going to be that of Bitcoin, which I think is about a year away or so. I'm not really one for fundamentals generally, but so if we are going to see big moves out of any coin, it would probably be Bitcoin, and we could be expecting to see this kind of move with Bitcoin the closer we get to the halving event. So when we find our bottom with Bitcoin, it would not surprise me if we have 300, 400, 500% gains with Bitcoin, which is why I'm going to go all in tether. All my tether is going to be spent on Bitcoin when it looks to me like it's going to be bottomed, because I believe that halving event will create a lot of price action, and then I do think that we're going to have something like this again with Bitcoin. Not perhaps so dramatic, but we will probably have something similar. That halving event will peak, and then we will consolidate dramatically. So that's your Litecoin for you. Oh wow, cheers for that. Yoshi, again, one of my OGs from the channel. To be honest with you, I'm looking at this channel now, and I think the vast majority of you lot are from my Telegram chat, so thanks for joining me. It's probably, I'm not very popular on YouTube, nor am I very popular on any social media, so to get 40 people watching this is a bit of a cheap thrill. That's like a classroom size, That's a cheap thrill for me. So yeah, thanks for joining me. So what else shall I look at then? Somebody was asking to see Kin, I'm not going to bother looking at Kin, to be honest with you. I do hold Kin, so I'm sure you might have seen some of the videos I've made on Kin, but currently the only thing good about Kin is absolutely nothing. I can't do technical analysis on that. I bought that coin on a gamble, which is basically a gamble is what it was. I only bought a couple of $100 worth, so I got, at the time I got about 13 million of them, but it's come down so much that it's more than my $200 is worth less than 100 at the moment. It's completely demolished that little gamble that I had. So there's no TA to be done on that. It's just hold it, forget about it, see what happens in 10 years. There's nothing to be said about it. I'm sorry about that. Other than that, so ZIL, right? I don't think I've ever looked at that. Is that on Binance? Yes, it is. And let's have a look at the state of this one. Not looking good. Not looking good at all. Looking awful, in fact. Let's go to a smaller time frame because the daily is terrible. And the 4 hours just got a new death cross on it. Let's go up to 12 hours. 12 hours is also pretty bad. I can't really tell you if this is going to go anywhere other than down. It looks to me like it wants to make some new lows. Our lowest bottom that we had was only, what was this, 3 weeks ago? 2 or 3 weeks ago, so we only bottomed out just a few weeks ago for the first time. I think given the nature of the market and the direction it wants to go, I think it's only fair to assume that we're going to make newer lows. And we're looking at this on tether pairing, so there's no historical lows lower than this, so there's no bottom, unfortunately. I can't tell you where this is going to go. Let me just have a quick look at something. How far did it fall today? 5.5%, so it's falling faster than Bitcoin. So it's reasonable to assume that if Bitcoin goes down another 3%, we'll go down another 5 or 6%. So what we'll do, measure move from where we are now. So we might be looking at making a bottom, and this is an absolute terrible gamble, and I wouldn't risk buying this coin at all at 0.0045. We could be doing that, and that's only because it's falling faster than Bitcoin, but not as fast as something like Ethereum. There's no reason why the bottom can't completely fall out or something like this. Again, there's no below these bottom levels here, which is the lowest we fell was 0.00419. Below there is a free-for-all. It could bounce from there, it could dramatically crash down from there. This isn't a coin I'd want to touch, and given the fact that we had a 4-hourly death cross, and 4-hourly death crosses generally do play out, we'll see how far our price action has gone from the top of this wick, to be generous, to the bottom of where we are now. Only 11%. A lot of the time we play out a 35% retrace from the top of the death cross. So my chart would tell me that the price action would be, we could come down as low as 0.00346. So I wouldn't touch this. I would leave this well alone. Out of pure interest, why would you want me to look at something like that? No one really needs to know much about TA to tell us to say that this chart is bearish. And this goes back from March, so we had an entire bull run in the market, and we didn't peak. We didn't go any higher than where we did when we first launched in April, and then we just collapsed. I don't see this one making any bold recovery anytime soon. So yeah, Bitcoin looks like it's collapsing. Well, not collapsing, but it's pulling back a bit further now. So perhaps we're going to hit that nail on the head at some point. I think this live stream might be ending. I'll give it till 9 o'clock and then I'll end it, because there's nothing worse than drinking cold tea, and I wouldn't go off and make a cup of tea and leave you all with silence. the live stream is boring enough without having you lot sitting around looking at a blank screen of a declining asset that you could all look at in high definition on your own screens, I'm sure. So anything else you want me to stare at, guys? Anything else you want me to look at? And so long as it's on Binance, I'll have a look. Oh, someone, the Truth Seeker 47 wanted me to have a peep at Elrond. Elrond is it was interesting me at one point, actually, because what am I doing? ERD, isn't it? Let's have a look at this for you. So, I mean, first things first, I mean, this actually, it doesn't look like much. This chart doesn't look like much at all. It looks like a dead coin, right? This is an IEO coin, obviously, so it's a strange sort of one to try and trade. But when I look at this here, what I have to say is it actually was looking okay in a way, better than most IEO coins, because this looked like, and it failed here, and I think this might have been when Bitcoin collapsed. I'm not entirely sure of the dates, but I think this might have been where Bitcoin collapsed, and probably where Matic bounced, actually. But what I was going to say is that once we break above this level here, which is the 50 EMA, it looked like it wanted to try and accumulate, and if it wasn't for Bitcoin, it looked like we could have maybe actually began to accumulate. Now, unfortunately, this is broken now. Bitcoin has broken it from that accumulation phase, but it does look okay, stronger than a lot of coins in its grouping, you know, the IEO coins. So what I would say is, with Elrond, I would probably leave it alone for now. I'd allow it a little bit more time to mature with the rest of the market once they bottom out. Now, things like these IEO coins, they have their own little thing going on, their own little seasons in a way, and I think this one could be a decent player when it comes round to its next season. But for the moment, it's broken from that accumulation phase, and it's probably being redistributed now because the sentiment's leaving the market the further the Bitcoin falls. If we can get above, excuse me, if we can get back above the 50 exponential moving average and start to accumulate above it at that point, and the 50 is a rising moving average, which for you guys is this green one, just so you know. I always have it as this fluorescent green colour. Then we might be looking to do some serious gains on that one, but for the moment it's broken down and we need to get back above it, and most of the time, you know, with most coins it's a bit of a battle to get above it, and it's begun to with all the other moving averages it's beginning to face down now, so we'll have to wait this one out. Also, we don't have a 200 exponential moving average on the daily, which is something that I always find very valuable. We do have it here on the 12 hourly though, and it's not bullish yet, it's bearish. And on the 4 hourly, we've just today received a death cross, which is unfortunate. So yeah, I think this one is, again, this one's gonna take a bit of a tumble now, actually. So, and again, all these coins that we're looking at now are going to be going down. So, you know, I suppose you want to hear me tell you where is it going to go down to. We can only do very basic measure moves on these things. So price action, let's just say the price action was the bottom here, 35%. The magic number could give us this level here at 0.0011. We could come down to that level, which would coincide with this big deep wick here. So between there and this level here, so 0.001 or 0.0011, we could be getting bounced up at those levels. And this one, like I say, it was about to show some good promise on the daily. It was looking okay. When you compare this to the way that things like One and Seller looked like, they were messy. This one looks a little cleaner, but the only thing that interfered with it is Bitcoin, and it wasn't strong enough to defend itself against those big Bitcoin dumps. But it generally looks okay if it wasn't for that. So yeah, maybe you could think about buying it down at those levels. I personally won't do it. I'm more interested in the top cap coins at this point in time. So BSV, Oh, Jesus, man. I'm sorry. BSV isn't on Binance, so I won't be able to look at it. But I promise you, man, I will make a video for you separately for that one. But I'm not going to do it now because I'm just not going to. I'm not going to be able to deviate onto TradingView and get my moving averages up and stuff like that. I'm just not going to do it. I just can't be bothered with it. And I'm really sorry, mate, but I promise you, I will make you a separate video on that. And I'll upload that in the next few days. I promise you I will. Just remind me on Telegram if I haven't done it in the next couple of days. Just remind me. I promise you I'll do it. Ren. Okay, let's have a look at Ren. Ren is another one I've been looking at for Jesus. Not Jesus our Lord, but Jesus who's on the chat right now, because he's on my Telegram too. And I have been relatively interested in Ren since Jesus showed me the way. But I have got some relatively bearish news, unfortunately. So the tether chart is very young, so it's not going to be very interesting to look at that one. So that's why I brought the Bitcoin one up. So it's even got my little lines in that I drew for Jesus. So at the moment we're bouncing at the bottom of this Bollinger Band. So what I am going to say, and what I said to Jesus, was that I believe that we could come down to the 400 sats area before a decent bounce, because when I made this video for Jesus, we were around this level here, and I said that if this support here doesn't hold, because we were being supported here when we were significantly rejected or dumped from these levels, we were being held up at these levels here. But when we came down to test it this time, we didn't see any strong support, and it was that lack of support and that lack of a bounce which led me to believe that we will continue to fall down, which is what we're doing now. And it's a bit of a slow and steady thing, because I thought we would come down a little bit further, and I was considering buying some of this around about 400 sats, which I think is where our target is going to be for this still. I still think that 400 sats is on the cards. And again, with something like this, we've come down quite a lot. So, and the chart is messy. There's no accumulation at this level. You can see how we've broken down beneath the 200 and the 50, and beneath all the other moving averages, and it looks like we're going to be coming down even further. If we find bounces here, it doesn't mean that we can't break down any further. We could break down further, but this would be a significant support, I would imagine, around 400 sats. And we might find a bounce, but that bounce, it depends on where it takes us. What I'd like to see is for the bounce to take us above, like it did on this occasion, take us above the 50 and the 200, and then stay above those. And if it can stay above those, it will allow those to move up, and that would be accumulation. And what we'd want to see at that level isn't this. We don't want to see that. We would want to see almost what would look like a flat, something like this, which isn't much, but it's a lot. If you think about it, that's a lot. If we could accumulate on a range similar to that, probably even lower than that, around about that, for about 2 months or so, then we could quite easily get something like this again. But I wouldn't touch it, even if I wouldn't touch it at 400 sats. I'd wait to see if we get a bounce and if we can stay above the 200 exponential, and then see how those moving averages play out. But bottom line is, I do think we're coming down to that 400 sats level. Kalimali, I can't, off the top of my head, I don't know what to do for. I'm not very good with all this Telegram business. If you find me on Twitter, which is just CryptoClick, you'll recognise my symbol if you find it. It's a pinned tweet on my channel, and it's just an invite link. Just use that. You'll get through to my my Telegram chat. You'll see it there. And yeah, there's not that many people on it, to be honest with you. About 50 something. So. And I'll probably take the link down when it gets to about 100 or so, because I'll find it hard to cope. Right, Bitcoin Cash then, shall we? Oh wait, Paul, IOTA. We'll have a look at IOTA, then we'll look at Bitcoin Cash, and then we might call it a day. We'll look at it on Tether though, if that's okay with you. So down 7.4 cent today, that's a big drop. Again, I mean, it's not wanting to do anything but go down, and in fact it was it was a pretty poor coin for the whole of the year actually. When other coins were making big gains, we made one big one here in April and then nothing after that. So that would tell me that this isn't a coin to be investing in, not even for a long term. That looks like, I don't know, I think this was just a pump and dump and just redistribution each time. And then yeah, I think this is a finished coin. This one's finished. There's nothing on here to tell me that it's going to do anything other than make. There's nothing bullish about this. Even if Bitcoin bottoms out, this isn't the coin that you want to be buying. There's so many other coins out there that you could be putting your money into that would do better than this. Now, I don't know about the fundamentals of this. You know, I don't know if there's something amazing that will come around the corner or not. But just going off the TA, I mean, look at it. It's bad. It's pretty bad. Yeah, like I say, you could put your money in any of the top other top coins that look much better than this, which are basically even things like, I think even XRP did better than this. So yeah, I'd leave this one alone. This looks tragic. Looks terrible, in fact. Right, and let's have a look at Bitcoin Cash then, shall we? So again, this was another one that launched massively at the beginning of the year and did really, really, really well. Hang on a minute. What's going on here? There's normally more price action than that for this. It's got a longer chart than that, surely. Am I missing something? Have I put something in wrong here? Why haven't we got any larger history than this? Well, I can't explain this to you, I'm afraid. I don't know what's going on there. I traded this at the beginning of the year. Why is the chart so small? Well, I can't tell you anything about this one, I'm afraid. How bizarre. Well, I'm sorry about that, guys. I didn't expect that at all, so I'm really sorry. I can't tell you anything about that. But I can tell you that it's clearly bearish, but I don't have the rest of the chart to go by, so I'm really sorry about that. Anyway, let's have a look at Bitcoin while we see if anyone's got any further coins for me to look at. Otherwise, we'll call it an evening, and we'll sit and wait for Bitcoin to break these levels that we're waiting for. So, like I say, I am still bearish, clearly, on Bitcoin, but my first opportunity to buy back is going to be this level, and I imagine a lot of other people will be doing the same. It doesn't mean that this is the bottom, though. The bottom could quite easily be all the way down here at 4,900, which is what I would consider to be the ultimate bottom, which is why I have this little box in here, where we will be dancing around in that range. If we were to break down into this level, we will be bouncing around in this range until we break out of the descending trend. Matic. Shall we look at Matic then, just for a laugh, just to see how it's looking right now? Because we also have some. So yeah, it's just really breaking down now, isn't it? It's really breaking down badly. So yeah, I think these levels are going to be taken out. I think this death cross is going to be hit, and I think 1 cent is definitely on the cards. It's not a tradable coin, definitely not. And we've been looking at this coin for a long time on this channel, and on the Telegram we talked about it all the time. We loved this coin, and for good reason. I mean, look at what it did for us. Most of us on that channel, on my Telegram chat, I know most of us were buying it all the way up here, and we pretty much called the top within a few fractions of a cent. We called the top, and I'm pretty sure most, if not all of us, got out before this, which was good. But it's still sad to see that, because we did so well out of it. We don't want to see a coin like that, because you get kind of emotional with a coin when you make significant gains out of it, you get attached to it, because it's like it's like a little friend in a way. It's done you a favour. You feel in some way attached to it. So even though we got out at the top, and I'm pretty sure most of us did, it's still very sad to see this happen. And the sort of the lure, the draw to buy back into it, to almost like do it a favour, is one of the attractions to the coin for me, because it's like a little friend in a way. But unfortunately, we can't go buying in at we just can't. The reason we were buying in at this level was because it was clear accumulation above the green 50 exponential for a period of, what was this, almost 2 months. That's clear accumulation. This is perfect. Like I say, this is a perfect example of accumulation. We were there for 47 days, and the green 50 was slanting up. We were up and down, but never broke beneath it until Bitcoin decided to do that, which did scare all of us, but then we launched. So that accumulation was a textbook accumulation zone. And that's what you want to see on some of these other coins. That's what we were looking at on Elrond, to be honest with you. Elrond, it doesn't look as good as that, it doesn't look as constructive as that, by no means. It doesn't look as good as that at all. But it was looking good, but then it failed. So the accumulation for Elrond has failed. But it was looking, for a while, it was looking constructive. If it could do that for a period of, like I say, we'll call it about 6 weeks or longer, with an uptrend that's ever so subtle and slight like this one, then yeah, that's accumulation, and that would lead to a large move. But unfortunately, it broke down, and it's got a death cross now. So Elrond wants to. Unfortunately, that's a failed accumulation zone. But this one was definitely a good one, and you can see actually another thing that we got excited about, because this was a relatively new coin. We only had the introduction of the 200 exponential around this level here, and when we saw that, when that finally did appear, we saw how constructive the chart was looking, and then we got the golden cross, and then that was it. We had a golden cross on the sats level around here, causing this pump, and then that pump led to this pump, which basically led to the golden cross, which led to this pump. But then obviously it's a margin tradable alt coin, small cap alt coin with giant moves on it. In a bearish market, ended up doing this, and I don't blame Matic for it. I know a lot of people said it was all inside stuff with Binance and Matic. It wasn't. What do you expect is going to happen? We're in a downwards market. We had a giant pump on a coin that already did this before it was available for margin trading. What do you expect people are going to do when we get to the top? And like I say, we kind of called the top. We saw the top ourselves. That's why we got out. So we saw that there was not an obvious top, but quite a clear top. Within about, enough for me and everybody else on the Telegram chat to sell. And we're not experts at all by any means. But we saw that looked very much like a top. So if you had bigger balls, and unfortunately mine aren't very big, so I don't like doing margin trading on anything like Matic, but if I did have big balls, I would have sold where I did, and then I would have taken it one step further, and I would have shorted. But my balls aren't, unfortunately, they're not that big. Right, well guys, I'll tell you what, I'm going to leave it there, because we've been on this for about an hour, and I've got to do some other stuff. But thank you for joining me. Really appreciate it. Thanks for the super chats, guys. Really appreciate that too. Really appreciate that too. But like I say, YouTube like to take their cut from a super chat, and so does the taxman, which is something I didn't realise until I saw, what I was left with. So every super chat that I receive, I probably end up getting only about 60% of what you send me, so it's almost halved, and everybody else gets a little slice of that. So if you really do want to show me appreciation, and you don't want the taxman to take his piece, and you don't like YouTube making any more money, because let's face it, YouTube have got enough money, they're doing alright for themselves. You can donate to my channel through some of those wallet addresses that I've got, but absolutely no reason why you should. But if you do fancy it, that's how to do it. Anyway, I really appreciate you for joining me, and let's see where we go from here. And have a nice evening. Take it easy. Thanks for watching. I'm going to end it there.